Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Night Watch by Tim Akers. It is a fantasy novel published by Baen Books. No, this is not the Night Watch written by Terry Pratchett. I'll get to that eventually, and all of Terry Pratchett's stuff. But Tim Akers' Night Watch. The basic premise for this book is that we have this character, John Rast, who loves going to like medieval fairs or Renaissance type fairs, and he loves dressing up and going full cosplay for it. And particularly, he loves cosplaying as a knight. And he decides to go to one fair with his friends where he's going to do some jousting. But then a dragon shows up. You're like, wait, a dragon shows up? Dragons aren't real. And normally you'd be right. But in this, for some reason, a dragon shows up. And he has to fight the dragon, which he does by crashing his car into the dragon's mouth. Which is quite humorous. And then he is recruited by this secret organization known as the Night's Watch, which is an organization meant to protect humanity and Earth from these kind of magical creatures and beings of magical power. And so the first portion of the book is about setting him up with the organization and him joining up, and then his first real mission hits a little close to home that he has to deal with in the second half of the book. This book, it's a delightful premise. It's a very fun premise that had me excited to read it, which is why this was an impulse buy. I just saw it at the store. I like Baen Books. I like the cover. The cover is done by Todd Lockwood. It is a gorgeous cover, I will say. Love the cover. But I picked it up, and the premise is great, but the execution is not. And that's what's kind of disappointing, is I was so ready to love the book because I really liked some of the setup and liked some of the promises that it makes. And just, it wasn't that there weren't payoffs, because there were. Like, from a story structure standpoint, this book does what it needs to do. But it didn't have the energy, it didn't have the fun quality, at least in some of it. So it didn't hit the right notes for me, unfortunately. Now, one thing that did work well is right when he's recruited by the Night's Watch, our main character kind of goes a little crazy because he's like, this is real? You guys are real? There's an octopus, the guy with an octopus hand, there's dragons. Like, he's legitimately freaking out to learn that all of this stuff is real. And a lot of times in fantasy books like this, the characters just jump onto the fact that there's fantasy, these fantasy elements are actually real way too quickly. When you think about something like Narnia, it only takes them a couple of seconds, and they're like, all right, we're all in on Narnia. And when you look at something like the Terry Brooks Magic Kingdom for Sale, the character buys the idea of the magical world super quickly. Even the book series I just read, The Library of Sapphire Wind, again, they just kind of go along with it. It does not take them any time to think about it. When your world is turned upside down, you might freak out a little too. So I did enjoy that they wrote that well. Some of the world building here is also interesting. Each member of the Night's Watch has like a domain, which is like their own universe that they kind of go into to protect themselves, to heal from wounds, to try to recuperate things that have their own connections to them, things that are important to them are in this universe. Their greatest fears are sometimes in this domain. The concept of the domains was really interesting, and I appreciated it. In fact, some of the world building of the domains really reminded me of The Wheel of Time, which I really appreciated. However, once we get past that idea, the middle part of the book, which just spent so long not only exploring the domains, but exploring what it's like to join the Night Watch, was not particularly exciting. I think that, the last 100 pages, maybe 130 pages of the book is when the main plot happens, where they have to go to another fair to stop a nefarious individual who has a connection to our main character. And that was cool. That was well executed, that part. But it happens so late in the book, it feels like more of like an afterthought, like they had to have that. And if that had happened earlier, or if the first part of the book had been about him going on missions, you introduce him, fights the dragon, joins the group, And then in the middle, you have a really short mission that he goes on. All right, you're initiated, you're part of the group. And then his big bad mission at the very end that he has to deal with. But there's not that thing in the middle. And so because of it, you just feel like he's training for so long. And then by the time you get to the final this final sequences where everything's coming together, it feels like too little too late, at least to me. And there's certainly, I mean, the world building is genuinely great, and are the concepts in this book. So I think that Tim Akers might get future reads out of me. He has a new book, Wraithbound, which is doing pretty well. He has a sequel, Van Hellions, which I'm not opposed to reading because, if his writing style is a little bit better combined with has excellent world building, I think that, he could really be a good author in the future. And, maybe I just need another series to work well for me. But unfortunately, this book is just meh. There's a thing that the kids say that I don't like using the term, but they say something's mid. That's kind of how I feel about this. I don't think it's a bad book. I don't think it's a great book. I just feel like it's okay. Like I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I'm in the middle. So these are always the least fun reviews to do because I don't have a strong opinion and I don't feel like it didn't feel visceral. It just felt this was an assignment. But again, as I said, I would love to read more from Tim Akers to see if he can improve his craft and really combine good storytelling with great world building, which is, I think, what his strong suit is. And his premise, again, the premise, it's blending kind of like a traditional premise. Our hero goes into a fantasy world, but instead it's more like a fantasy world comes to our hero in our world, which I think is just a cool twist. So I give the book a 5 out of 10, right in the middle. Not good, not bad, just kind of meh. So if you've read Night Watch by Tim Akers, what did you think about it? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Do you feel like I do, kind of in the middle? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.